If the zombie apocalypse actually happened, but the zombies were fast as fuck, reasonably intelligent, and you lived in London where there's no guns, what would you do? In this How to Beat video, we'll follow the batshit insane repatriates, see if we can better avoid the hordes of infected, and ultimately attempt to beat the rage virus in 28 weeks later. If at any point you think I'm wrong, say for thinking Doyle should have sniped Andy, drop that nonsense in the comments. If you've binge watched all my videos but you're not subscribed, you're doing YouTube wrong. After watching all these How to Beat videos, maybe you think you could take on any evil entity in this world or the next. Well, have you taken down the Demon Lord yet? Crushed the Ice Golem? Ascended the Doom Tower? Fought millions of real players in the PvP arena? It's time to put yourself to the test by downloading Raid Shadow Legends. Choose your champions, build your team, and perfect your tactics to raid the evil hordes. This time, things are different. There's a new champ on the block you need on your side. Ninja is a brand new legendary champion wielding both a katana for up-close wet work and a bow and arrow for the fleeing enemies in the distance. The coolest part is that Ninja is designed after a huge personality in the gaming community, Ninja himself. After Shadowkin raiders slayed his Bannerlord family, the infant Ninja was taken in and taught the art of shadow and war by the Shadowkin. There, he became their most fearsome weapon against the evil demon spawn hordes. Ninja's available for free right now, but only until October 15th. After that, you won't be able to get him. Raid's also running special fusion events for legendary champions, PvP tournaments, and released 5 badass new champions. Get a head start in Raid by hitting the link in the description or scanning my QR code, and you'll receive an epic hero Chanuru, 200,000 silver, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill, and 1 ancient shard so you can summon an awesome champion as soon as you get in game. All this treasure will be waiting for you here. Rewards will be available only for the next 30 days and only for new players. We start out following Don and his wife Alice, surviving the outbreak which occurred in 28 days later, the original movie that people are going to give me shit for not covering first. This isn't Don and Alice's house. They live in the city but luckily managed to get out during all the chaos, which I imagine was like Philly in World War Z. It's been a week or so since the outbreak, so the zombies are relatively fresh. And fast. Let's clear this up real quick. I know they aren't legit zombies, but that's what I'm going to call them. Calling them the infected just makes it sound like they're suffering from an affliction. These things are adrenaline-pumped, blood-vomiting, heat-seeking, ravenous cannibals. They're fucking zombies. What I like about 28 weeks later is that the zombies are just normal humans gone crazy. There's no magic bullshit like in Dawn of the Dead where the zombies don't die from anything other than a bullet to the head. Infection, dehydration, starvation, and blood loss are lethal conditions for those infected with the rage virus. Human mouths are filled with bacteria and will cause severe, potentially deadly infections if untreated, which will be the case because zombies don't go to hospitals. These aren't bites from your bastard 5-year-old nephew that barely breaks skin. These are full-grown adults trying to eat your face off and chew through your neck. The rage virus also causes internal hemorrhaging and zombies to puke blood everywhere. Infection and blood loss are going to cause the first 10 to 20% of the zombies to die out within the first days or weeks. The 80% of the zombies that survive their initial wounds will be faced with starvation and dehydration. While Don and Alice never saw the zombies eat or drink during their escape because they were too busy trying to not get murdered by everyone, it's not safe for them to assume that the infected won't try to eat or drink by scavenging, cannibalizing each other, persistence hunting animals, and drinking whatever water they find. You don't want to walk into town assuming that everyone's died of inundation and realize your hypothesis was wrong. Cannibalizing each other, eating uncooked foods, and drinking river water is gonna cause the zombies to be riddled with other diseases that make them vomit more and shit everywhere more, leading to more dehydration and illness-related deaths. Still, it'll take a lot longer for them to die out. That and not everyone will be infected at the same time. As bands of survivors get infected over the following weeks, the time it will take for them to die out will be even longer. For Don, Alice, and the others living in the home, survival is an uphill battle of attrition that may take up to a year. However, their primary concern is to not be spotted. The home they're sheltering in is situated many miles into the outskirts of London. I'm guessing somewhere eastward along one of the streams that connects to River Thames, far enough that the millions of infected in the city won't find them. This is more of a psychological consolation than a realistic advantage. Even 1 or 2 zombies could easily overpower them. This isn't America, where every household has enough firepower to mow down every living thing in a 2-mile radius 4 times over with a gun store down the road so they can do it again. This is Britain. They have diddly shit in the way of guns, which is about the only way you can fight those infected with the rage virus. Getting into a fist fight with them is pretty much guaranteed death, as one scratch, one spittle in your eye, and you turn into another zombie trying to kill what used to be your family. If they need to go outside for any reason, they need to do it under the cover of darkness. It is possible the zombies don't sleep from the uncontrolled anger they're experiencing, and that they are actively trying to hunt down any uninfected humans night and day. Humans can stay awake for weeks, even months without sleep or with micro naps. They should assume they're still being hunted at night, but at least the zombies will have more trouble seeing them. The human sense of smell isn't that great, but any scented candles or cigarettes should be avoided. They also have a hell of a lot of china propped up high. If someone knocks that over while a zombie's rummaging through their garbage, they're all dead. Package all that shit and put it on the ground. Their secondary concern is drinkable water. Distilling water from the nearby river at night and collecting rainwater in barrels should be able to sustain them. Their tertiary concern is food. This is the hard one. Their home is well stocked with cans of tomato soup, chickpeas, and bottled wine, presumably enough for a couple months max with 6 mouths to feed. That's not the biggest problem though. Cooking it is. The rage virus may have turned everyone into young men who were on the losing side of a Call of Duty game. But they still have eyes, ears, and noses. Well, most of them. Some may have their noses bitten off. Point is, the smoke billowing out of your chimney might as well be a dinner bell for all the starving zombies nearby. You're gonna want to cook at night only, very briefly, and moderate how much smoke is being put out at once. If I can smell someone barbecuing from a block away, you better bet zombies can sniff out the Chef Boyardee you're cooking on your wood stove. It's not even just the zombies you want to hide from. You'd also want to remain unseen by roaming bands of scavs or desperate survivors who will lead the zombies to your front door.
Don't worry, Zona.
Don, it's a kid!
Great. Someone saw the smoke coming out of your chimney because you decided to cook with a wood stove in broad daylight. Now some kid is forcing you into a lose-lose situation. You let the kid die and have to live with it. Or let in another mouth you have to feed and risk being seen by the infected chasing him. Or the third scenario, the kid is a scav scout that is using your empathy against you to infiltrate your home and signal to his friends that you're unarmed and well-stocked so they can come kill you and steal your supplies. Personally, and I know I'm saying this from my comfy chair with no skin in the game, I'd let the kid die. His screaming indicates immediate danger with zombies in close vicinity behind him, possibly within eyesight, in which case opening the door is a death sentence. If he ran over here and had lost the zombies, he'd be more discreet about it. Then again, they've been cooking up a feast, so at that point the zombies were already onto them regardless of the boy knocking. The young lady opening the blinds to see if her missing boyfriend was out there is beyond moronic. The zombies chasing the boy are probably lurking around the house looking for him, and if her boy toy is out there, he's probably undateable. The fact that the infected haven't barged through your home is lucky enough. If you're gonna look outside, it'd be better to do it from the attic so you aren't at eye level with the infected. This is what happens when you try to hold up with too many PTSD-stricken people in the apocalypse. Someone is going to do something stupid. Holy shit, those wood barricades did nothing. Who was this zombie? Jean-Claude Van Damme? Helping whoever is under attack is a waste of precious time. One scratch and the person you're helping is going to be trying to kill you. You're all basically dead now unless you have a stocked vehicle in the shed with the keys in the ignition, or a super secret crawl space you can all quickly hide in. Also, everyone should have had something on them that they could use as a weapon at all times, or at least sharpened sticks in each room. I know I said fighting is futile, but if you have to fight, a sharpened stick is better than bare knuckle brawling. Seriously, did they cover their windows up with styrofoam painted to look like wood?
John! Help us!
The time slowing down at this moment perfectly encapsulates the intensity. I'll probably get shit for it, but fuck Alice. She knew seconds mattered and prioritized the dumb little kid that led zombies to their doorstep over her husband who she'd been married to for decades. What the fuck was Dawn going to do? Judo chop it in the neck and swoop you off your feet to safety? You dicked around in the open and got caught. That's not his fault. Not to mention you both have kids which will be orphaned if Dawn gets himself killed too. Dawn justifiably uses his wife as a distraction to make the run of all runs. The zombies in the house weren't the only ones. There's an entire horde of zombies coming down the hill in a dead sprint towards him. Tom Cruise doesn't have shit on the Dawn. Dawn screams at Jacob to hurry his ass up. Seems Jacob had the same idea. Dawn crank starts the motor while Jacob untethers the boat. With zombies right on his ass, he kicks the boat off the dock and tries to jump in, but fails to stick the landing and ends up in the zombie-infested waters. Dawn kicks the zombified Jacob off and manages to pull away from the rest of the infected. How the hell could you get a good night's rest ever again after that? With nowhere else to go, Dawn continues cruising down the River Thames where he's found and picked up by a military unit. At this point, you might be wondering, if they had a boat, why the fuck didn't they just cruise out of town? And you know what? It's a good question. According to this boat capacity calculator, it could have held all 6 of them. If not, you could always leave the elderly couple since they'll just be deadweight. From their likely location along the River Thames, it'd be about an 80-mile journey across the English Channel. With spare gas and 4 to 6 people, you could cover at least half of that on power. They'll need to bring paddles to row the rest of the way, commandeer another boat, or siphon more gas. If there is a military presence, they'd be setting up camp in the harbors east of London. They don't know if the rest of the world is fucked too, and if they'll show up on the beaches of France only to find more zombies. But it's worth the risk and beats the hell out of skulking around a cottage in a populated area where one wrong move results in your death. 15 days later, mainland Britain is quarantined. 3 weeks for a proper quarantine to be set up? I'm surprised more zombies didn't slip through by boat or plane. That's a piss poor response time. By the 4th week, the bulk of the destruction had occurred and nearly everyone except small pockets of survivors remained uninfected. The CDC, or whatever state organization is mishandling this operation, is saying that after 5 whole weeks, the infected had died from starvation. 5 weeks. Really? 5. That is total bullshit. Most people have enough fat stores to last them months without food. Maybe most died from dehydration or any of the other reasons I mentioned earlier, but 5 weeks is really underestimating it. On the 11th week, Team America shows up and takes a mere 7 weeks to eradicate all zombies and declare all of mainland Britain free of infection. There is no way every nook and cranny of every structure, let alone every square mile of countryside, was cleared in 7 weeks. Even if all the infected humans were destroyed, rodents could be harboring the virus and pockets of survivors could also pose a danger. At 24 weeks, they begin reconstruction of the damage done. 4 weeks later, all the damage done by the zombie apocalypse was repaired. Yeah, right. It takes the government a year to redo a street, but the entirety of London was patched up in 4 weeks. At 28 weeks, they start moving people back in. No sane, intelligent person would trust their government's word that they eradicated a zombie infestation in 18 weeks and that it's safe to move in. London would have to be a giant nuke crater for me to consider moving back in. I think I'd just get citizenship somewhere else.
No one told me that we're now admitting children.
Oh, that's where you draw the line. Children, not the completely insane idea of migrating tens of thousands of people back into what's realistically still an infected hot zone, not 4 months after the first military unit arrived in the country. I'd be less worried about moving into Syria. Okay, not really, but it's close enough that voluntarily choosing to go is batshit insane, as evidenced by the soldiers present every 10 feet you walk. You'd think all of these former residents that managed to catch the last flights out of Britain during the outbreak would have been tracked down, quarantined, and assessed as soon as they landed into populated areas. But no, the military is checking for signs of infection on their return to post-apocalyptic London. So by their logic, in order to be allowed into the infected zone, you need to prove you aren't infected by getting eye-popped at the interim airport optometrist. The military's plan is to clear the Isle of Dogs section of London, repopulate it with people, and then I guess repeat the same process with the other sections of London and Britain. I honestly don't see what's the rush. It's not like there's millions of British people that were displaced. They are all pretty much dead. The thousands remaining can go somewhere else for a while. They could have at least waited to move people in until after they finished bagging up and burning all the bodies.
Rats and wild dogs are prevalent as is disease.
Not to mention you're surrounded by 40 square miles of uncleared infected city potentially inhabited by thousands of the living dead. Even if the humans are all dead, did nobody think that maybe these rats and wild dogs could be spreading or carrying the disease? They also failed to mention that there might be bands of survivors that are dangerous and on edge and may kill you if they think that you're infected. But yeah, you guys are safe. There's just some stray dogs to watch out for. The tour guide tells them that 15,000 potential zombies have already moved into District 1. They have hot and cold running water that may or may not be sterilized, and even a pub. That last one sure gave everyone quite the chuckle. You dumb fucks. You're walking into one of the most dangerous places on the face of the planet, and you giggle because some soldiers fixed up the Winchester Tavern and stocked it with Natty Light? I guess it makes sense considering you were dumb enough to volunteer for this experiment in the first place. If you were concerned about living standards, London should have been at the bottom of your list.
We don't fully understand the virus yet.
Thank you. At least someone is raising concerns for how fucked all this is. General Stone tells her not to worry, that if it comes back, they will simply kill it. Being a soldier, you should know that if it comes back, containment will fail and they will bomb the Isle of Dogs into dirt along with every uninfected survivor residing there. Tammy and Andy are reunited with their father, Don. After the little mishap at the cottage months ago, he cruised right into a military camp where they promoted him to section officer. He's in charge of making sure this show has enough electricity, so the military in their infinite wisdom gave him an all-access backstage pass to even the most secure areas. That decision definitely won't come back to bite them in the ass. Don shows them the penthouse suite that they'll be staying at and sits them down to have a little chat about why their mom isn't there.
And then we were attacked. I tried to go back. She was already gone. I couldn't do anything.
Jesus, go give your dad a hug, you senseless children.
Was there nothing you could do?
No, like he said, there was nothing he could do. If there was, don't you think that he'd have done it? Give your dad the benefit of the doubt for fuck's sake. You were frolicking in Paris in complete safety while he lived in a constant life and death situation with fast as fuck hopped up cannibal lunatics trying to slaughter them. Doyle and all the Delta snipers are providing overwatch at night while everyone attempts to get a decent night's sleep. You'd think it'd be hard when your apartment is at the epicenter of the deadliest viral outbreak mankind's ever faced, with millions of dead bodies surrounding your island that experienced unimaginable horrors in their final moments. I'm sure Flynn could have gotten a nice room, but I get it. I'd be sleeping in my chopper seat ready to go at a moment's notice too. He's flying a variant of the Gazelle helicopter, which can have doors on it. Why he chose to remove them in this environment beats me. If for no other reason than to prevent sick pranks like this. Flynn jokes about shooting Doyle, but seriously, that's how you get shot, like Bill Murray in Zombieland. It's all jokes until someone freaks out and pulls the trigger. No! Naturally, the first day after the kids arrive, they somehow think it's a smart idea and somehow manage to sneak out of a highly guarded quarantine zone to go explore the restricted zone without being shot or immediately captured. Tammy wants to snag the keys to the scooter, which isn't a terrible idea if you're hell-bent on exploring restricted zombie-plagued areas of the city. Should a runner bust out of a shop and give chase, you do not want to be on foot. At least she got the helmet for Andy. Safety first. Tammy and Andy reach their former home and split up to raid their own rooms. Andy gets his picture of his mom and hops around on the trampoline before heading back in to find Tammy. Only he doesn't find Tammy. To his surprise, he finds his non-zombified, very much alive mom who's been holding out in their attic. She must have had some sort of immunity to the virus, and the zombies just moved on thinking she was infected too. Alice had no way of knowing about the military camp and decided to sneak back into town to try to ride it out. If I was her, I'd try to find a new shelter somewhere further into the countryside. The city would have been packed with zombies. Yes, she has an immunity and the infected probably won't attack her since they let her go after infecting her, but do you really want to chance it waltzing into a million-strong horde like Brad Pitt in World War Z? Like I was saying earlier, they might start cannibalizing each other, including you, when starvation starts to hit. The military tracked the kids down and took Alice back to their secure lab for decontamination and assessment. Well, this is awkward. Not to worry, citizens, we were just a little wrong about the whole everyone in London was dead thing. Why are people always so dramatic when they're essentially getting bathed? It's not like they're branding you with a hot iron. Scarlett's performing the assessment of Alice with pretty minimal PPE. I think a survivor who's potentially an asymptomatic carrier of the rage virus warrants a level 4 biosuit until you're absolutely sure she's clean. Scarlett puts Alice's blood under the microscope and concludes that she's infected, but that she has a genetic immunity to it. Scarlett thinks that her blood contains the key to a vaccine, or even a cure. Correct me if I'm wrong, internet virologists, but if she has a natural immunity, aka a genetic immunity, she will never have had an immune response to the virus, and thus her blood doesn't contain the antibodies necessary to create a vaccine nor a cure. Even if there were living infected people, which there aren't per your estimations, and even if you were able to create a cure with her blood, which you can't, how would you plan on administering it to the zombies? And what's the plan for rehabilitating and reintegrating ex-zombies? Clearly you're not qualified for this position, nor have you thought through the realities and logistics for this situation. I'm not saying they should kill Alice because she's useless and dangerous, but they should kill Alice because she's useless and dangerous. General Stone's one intelligent decision in this dumpster fire is to incinerate Alice since she poses too great of a risk. And herein lies the pinnacle of stupidity in this movie. The fucking maintenance man has access to containment quarters for possibly infected survivors and labs, which are totally unguarded by soldiers and unmonitored by surveillance cameras. The TSA had a 50 cal machine gun trained on the people entering the infected zone, but the sole survivor of the apocalypse who's a carrier for the disease effectively doesn't have a locked door. You'd think that they'd piece together that Alice is Dawn's wife. Dawn has the dumbass all-access pass to their infected labs where she's kept, and maybe he'd want to pay her a visit. Nah, totally unthinkable. Dawn ignores any safety precautions or general common sense and starts making out with his detained, shell-shocked wife that's strapped to a chair because she may be infected. Doesn't take long for the virus to kick in. Jesus Christ. Dawn still has the wherewithal to slide his badge through the card reader to open the door so he can start attacking everyone. Nobody can get their pistol up to shoot him in time, so the situation escalates out of control exponentially. General Stone executes their code red when they physically arrive at the containment room to find Alice's mutilated corpse, because they didn't have security cameras which were being monitored. The code red procedure is to move everyone into designated containment bunkers. Good luck orderly ushering 15,000 panicking people into some distant bunker in time while zombies are on the loose. While the code red is popping off, Andy and Tammy are being held in another quarantine area.
Everything's fine. Don't worry. I'll be back in a moment.
Why would you even say or think this? It's a code red, meaning there's a zombie outbreak. The same one that had claimed over 60 million lives in the span of a week. That's almost as many as World War II claimed in 6 years of brutal combat and genocide. The seriousness of the situation cannot be overstated. This idiot nonchalantly walks into the hallway lit with flickering emergency lights, completely unarmed. I don't care if you're Barney Ross, get your gun up so you don't have to try to unholster it if a zombie starts running at you. Yeah, like that. Scarlett comes to the rescue with her gun up, clearing rooms like you should, and tries to get them onto a chopper out of the danger zone because she still falsely thinks that their blood harbors the cure. It's too chaotic, and they end up getting separated by the soldiers. The secure bunkers are actually just underground parking garages that are locked up less securely than an ice cream store at night. Hell, thousands of people piled into a small area might as well be an ice cream store for the zombies. Middle school teachers have a better code red procedure for hostile visitors. Everyone goes to their rooms, locks up, and hides. The first 2 floors of each residential building should have been up-armored with unbreakable plexiglass with a platoon of soldiers guarding the lobby, stairwell, and hallways. Blueprints for each building should be assessed so that all other entrances could be sealed or guarded. Snipers on the rooftops can pick off the zombies running through the streets or attacking the entrances. Andy hears some banging on the back entrance of the parking garage. It's his raged-out dad. Did that door even have a lock on it? So much for a secure containment area. All the survivors crammed into this garage just became an all-you-can-eat zombie buffet. Andy climbs up onto a car and escapes through the vent shaft, which is a pretty clever move compared to everyone else screaming and running for the same locked door. It was insanely lucky that the shaft was right over a car, that it could be opened, and that nobody else tried to follow him. The chained and locked front entrance didn't even stop the horde. The military really didn't think this through. At least tell me they have a flamethrower or nerve gas grenades? Nope, just a few soldiers with M4s. Great. Initially, the soldiers try to pick off the infected, but it's near impossible. Within seconds, General Stone gives the order to abandon selective targeting. If you were in that group of fleeing people, I think your best option is to just lay down and act dead. It's a virus where people attack anything that moves and looks uninfected. If you're still, they will probably run past you. That and you're far less likely to catch a bullet from the soldiers. Scarlet gets on the comms to tell all the soldiers to spare and evacuate a little boy. Andy shouldn't be too hard to spot. He is the only child in District 1. The problem is that she failed to give the soldiers a legitimate reason not to kill him. Andy better hope he doesn't end up in someone's sights. I actually think that all the soldiers should be actively targeting Andy. His genetic immunity won't enable them to make a vaccine or cure, and makes him an inconspicuous carrier of the virus, which makes him far more dangerous than the zombies. Why Andy decided to pop out of the ventilation shaft right in the middle of all this is beyond me. Doyle saves Andy with a clutch shot and some store owner waves him into safety. The snipers aren't too smart either. They didn't secure the rooftop hatches and now they're getting attacked. Compared to the dumbass zombies in World War Z who anthill up a building side to get to the top, the Rage infected are pretty damn intelligent for spotting the snipers from ground level, navigating their way through the building and finding the roof entrance in order to attack them. In yet another stroke of mad luck, Tammy and Scarlet were at the shop Andy was drawn into. Scarlet says the obvious, that the military is going to exterminate this entire area now. They need to find a way out of District 1 before it gets nuked, while avoiding getting eaten by zombies or shot down by snipers. Doyle heard Scarlet's bullshit call for help about the VIP child earlier and headed down to help. That, and unsurprisingly, the military didn't line up helicopter extractions for their own snipers. He says that right now the snipers are preoccupied with shooting the infected running around, and that their night vision scopes have a fairly narrow field of view. If they sleuth around under the cover of darkness, they have a chance that the Z's and snipers both won't see them. Not that they have a choice, because this place will likely be nuked within the hour. They need to get into the restricted zone and commandeer a vehicle they can drive back to base, or find an LZ that Flynn can pick them up at. Doyle makes sure that everyone's on his ass and moves out for the restricted area. He's got a rail-mounted night vision scope on his AR, but no suppressor. The lack of suppressor is a real problem. If he fires, everyone, sniper and infected, will hear it. Flynn and Doyle get comms, and Flynn lets him know that in 4 minutes, District 1 will be firebombed into a hellscape. Flynn tells him to go to Regent's Park for extraction. Why? That's like 10 miles away. Doyle should have given Flynn his current location so they could coordinate a closer LZ, like Greenwich Park that's just south of them. With only a couple minutes until they get turned into crispy critters, there's no time for lollygagging. They need to sprint for the water or Greenwich Foot Tunnel. What are the snipers still doing in District 1 if the whole place is minutes from being firebombed? Luckily, he only killed a few randoms that nobody cares about. He did clip Scarlet's leg though. That's gonna be a problem. Sorry Scarlet, but if the infected start chasing us, you're on your own.
He's panicked and no marksman.
Dude, he blasted your Saving Private Ryan mirror right out of your hand immediately with 1 or 2 shots from a tough angle and distance. I'd say he's good. I think Doyle's just saying that to give his diversion, the confidence to run out there so he can get a clean shot. He instructs Sam to run in a zigzag pattern to throw the sniper off. This is generally considered to be bad advice because it slows you down, thus making you an easier target. Sam justifiably doesn't want to play bait, so Andy takes off and executes a perfect serpentine maneuver. The sniper now somehow misses every shot and gets dropped by Doyle. Doyle's group hauls ass through the Greenwich Tunnel, just narrowly avoiding the firebombs. They weren't the only ones though. The delayed firebombing doesn't seem like the best way to handle the situation. If they actually had secure bunkers, they could have pre-installed nerve gas bombs all throughout the district. Upon code red and everyone's successful migration into the bunkers, these bombs would be set off and all of District 1 would be safely fumigated without harming the civilians. The survivors eventually make it to Regent's Park. Problem is, there's zombies out here too. Either the zombies from District 1 tracked them down somehow, or the military was lying about all the zombies starving to death in a couple months. Flynn arrives and starts freaking out at the sight of Doyle's tag-alongs. I honestly don't see what the problem is. His Gazelle helicopter can easily take them all. We know that if you're infected, you turn into a zombie within seconds, so he shouldn't have anxiety about that. He might think that they could be carriers, but if Doyle and Scarlett are uninfected, flying them all to the nearest quarantine zone shouldn't be a problem. Flynn's irrational fear causes Sam to jump onto his helicopter for fear of being left. Sam's made out to be a little bitch, but the man's just trying not to die. He did save all of your lives, for Christ's sake. Flynn pulls incredibly dangerous evasive maneuvers to shake Sam off. At least he heard Doyle screaming for help on the comms and realized he needed to prioritize mowing down the horde. That move saved their asses, but it wouldn't have been necessary if Flynn just picked them up in the first place. He flies off and tells Doyle that he'll extract him and him alone at the Wembley Stadium, which is another 8 miles west of their location. It's also a tough spot to land a helicopter and has terrible sight lines. Flynn would be lucky to get the rotor spooled up in time if zombies burst out of the stands. If he was concerned about Doyle's well-being, he'd just pick him up now or find a closer LZ. It's clear that Doyle isn't going to leave the kids, so Flynn's just risking their lives, delaying the same discussion. And that's if they don't get overrun. There's no telling how many infected escaped District 1. Could be thousands. If even 40 or 50 zombies showed up, Doyle would be easily overrun. He's putting down the few zombies giving immediate chase, but his lack of suppressor is constantly giving his position away and attracting more zombies. Flynn is also a piece of shit because there's no way he didn't see the giant cloud of poison gas rolling towards them and cutting them off from the LZ. Caught between the zombies and the toxic gas clouds, they jump into a nearby car that luckily was unlocked. I highly doubt they could survive a gas attack by locking up in a Volvo. Maybe if it was a Tesla with bioweapon defense mode activated. It does take some time for nerve gas to kill. If they can get the car started and drive out of there, they stand a chance. If not, they'll succumb to the gas or get barbecued by the flame troopers. I don't know what's scarier, the zombies or fire bats swinging their giant torches. I highly doubt soldiers would be operating within clouds of nerve gas. That seems incredibly dangerous. I don't know, maybe it'd feel cozy knowing that zombies couldn't get you without their nervous systems getting fried. The car battery is dead, so Doyle opts to get out and give it a push start, which is a thing you can do to help start cars with weak batteries. I didn't know that. Doyle getting out and letting some gas in should still be fine. Usually takes a decent amount of inhalation to start to kill you. I don't think staying in the car and signaling to the troopers that you weren't infected would work. Even if they didn't outright torch you, you'd die from gas exposure. Doyle could have gunned down the flame soldiers and ensured his survival. He already set the precedent that he was willing to kill friendlies for the kids. However, he probably thought that they'd be able to escape in the car and he was dead from exposure anyways. Killing the soldiers was just unnecessary. Before Doyle can get back in, the flame troopers open up. Doyle should have handed Scarlett the radio so they'd have comms with the chopper and so she can explain why the kids are necessary. Without it, Flynn is likely to leave them on site again. This Apache pilot needs to be fired for being unable to hit a 15-year-old station wagon driving 25 miles an hour in broad daylight. If this was real life, they'd have been turned into a red paste from its 30mm chain gun. I get it's a code red, but it's still crazy to me that they'd shoot at a car clearly being driven by innocent survivors instead of trying to extract and quarantine them. Scarlett loses the Apache in the subway and they ditch the car. Doyle gave Scarlett his M4, but not the extra mags. Let's hope she doesn't need them. Even a couple zombies can tank some serious damage, like that one that was still walking after getting its torso chopped in half by the helicopter rotors. Scarlett hangs back and tries to direct Tammy and Andy through the corpse-littered subway with the night vision scope on Doyle's rifle. Doyle's M4 does have a flashlight, but it's too risky to use with the infected all around them.
Stop!
Can you not scream the second they move in the wrong direction? You're attracting unwanted attention and pumping their anxiety levels into the stratosphere. How about you lead the way since you have the night vision scope? They can hold onto your shirt and follow your steps. That way you don't have to constantly flag Tammy and Andy with a hot rifle and they aren't obscuring your field of view if a zombie is down there. Why Tammy and Andy don't just get up and say they're okay is beyond me. You tripped and fell. You can still talk. Now Scarlett's yelling and making way too much noise. Through her night scope, she sees someone walk across the corridor. Now would be the time to turn the flashlight on. The night scope has too narrow of a field of view and is too fuzzy with no ambient light. And to think, all she would have needed to do to survive was squeeze the pressure pad on the foregrip to turn on the flashlight. Tammy picks up the rifle and looks through the night scope to see Scarlett's pummeled face. She doesn't take a pulse and leaves thinking Scarlett's dead. She might be, but she also might have just been knocked unconscious. She wasn't bitten, so there's a chance. Tammy's got more pressing concerns, like her dad tearing Andy to pieces. Who knew a teenage girl would be more combat effective than an actual soldier? Tammy does make the all too common and unbelievably stupid mistake of dropping the rifle after dispatching the immediate threat. Do I really have to point out that the other zombies might be nearby and heard the shots? Andy runs off thinking he's infected from the bite wound. Too bad there's not a rooftop edge he could throw himself over if he started foaming at the mouth. Tammy, I get that you don't want to leave Andy, but maybe bring the rifle in case he goes rage mode? Andy doesn't turn because he shares the same genetic immunity as his mom. The thought never passes through their heads that Andy might be harboring the virus now. They arrive at the Wembley Stadium after the movie cut out another 6 miles of them sneaking through the restricted zone. Flynn's there chilling in the helicopter with his MP5. He doesn't look too happy about Doyle's absence, but lets them on board anyways. Terrible timing on your change of heart. You got Doyle and Scarlett killed only to take the kids anyways. Oh, and Sam. Can't forget about Sam. He should have checked them for bite wounds and then gunned Andy down when he found out he was infected. Instead of taking him to a secure military camp where they could quarantine and assess the kids for infection, he flies them across the channel into France where Andy spreads infectious bodily fluids on every glass cup, doorknob, metro handrail, and Uber car seat. The movie ends with the virus spreading through the entire world and ending 99.98% of life. If Dawn and Alice paddled down the river, they'd have been picked up by the military and her immunity would not have inadvertently caused the entire human race to go extinct. Perhaps the most devastating and preventable mistake was giving Dawn a backstage pass and not posting guards outside Alice's containment room. Besides that, Andy getting bitten and hopping on the next flight to continental Europe is just flat out insane, even for a dumb kid. I'm quite confident we could have managed this situation better than General Stone and beaten the rage virus from 28 weeks later. My biggest piece of advice for surviving a zombie apocalypse that'll leave you with is to be friends with a helicopter pilot.